So let's have a little chat, shall we? A little occult chat. I want to give thanks to my universal or galactic ancestors. The ones that I don't know their names, but they are constantly guiding me. And they are constantly showing me the truth about people, about culture, and about society, and about the shadow hidden society that a lot of us don't even know exist. So I want to give a shout out to my galactic ancestors. See, we're so busy always talking about, ancestor.com, DNA.com, PNA.com. Oh, did I come from Africa? Did I come from Europe? Did I come from Antarctica? And all these other places? But where do you come from in the universe? The omniverse, whatever you call it. What is your galactic genetics? What is your galactic DNA? See, I know what mine is, but I'm not going to tell people on here. See, I know where I'm from. Because I've been communicating with those ancestors and I just didn't know it. But now it makes perfect sense. You feel what I'm saying? So I want to give thanks and honor to the ancestors of Remivia. I'll say that much. Remivia. Remivia. The Remivian star system, the hidden star system, the dark star, the dark galactic federation. I want to give a shout out to them for guiding me, keeping me grounded, and keeping me motherfucking safe. It's a lot of shit going on in the occult world, isn't it? Huh. I don't want to be petty because I don't do petty business. Well, I can be petty sometimes. I can be a petty, vindictive Virgo, but that's just part of my personality, you know? It is what it is. I'm not a fan of young Pharaoh. Not a fan of his at all. Not particularly because, I have anything personal against him, but I just don't think that he's just not for me. Let's just say that. But I saw a clip of him being interviewed by Tasha K. And I'm going to tell you all something. And people may not believe it. People may not receive it. I don't give a fuck. You can say I'm crazy. You can say I'm not. I don't give a fuck. That's not young Pharaoh in that interview. What happened and where is young Pharaoh? What did they do to him? Is my question. I looked in his eyes. There's something off about his eyes. Young Pharaoh is an attractive young man. No homo, okay? He's an attractive young man. The person that I saw being interviewed by Tasha K does not have that same level of attractiveness. That's number one. Number two, the things that he's talking about in that particular little clip that I saw, it really, really makes sense to what's happening to him. So my question is, has a young Pharaoh been cloned and replaced? Because I ain't naming no names, but a lot of these conscious niggas, or black men, let me say it that way, a lot of these conscious black men, I'm gonna be nice, a lot of these conscious black men are being cloned and replaced right in front of our eyes, and we don't even see it. And let me just explain to you what I mean when I say cloning. See, everyone has their own version of what it means to have a doppelganger, which means a double. There are different types of cloning under what people would call the reptilian energy, which is also connected to the planet, what we call Mars. But that's another story. In the movie Get Out, they showed you a high level version of cloning. You see, cloning is not always about replacing an entire person with an entire body double. There is a way you can clone people and keep them in the same body. And what you do is you take a portion of their brain and you alter the chemistry or whatever, or the brain waves, whatever. You alter that system of their brain, of their mind, of their personality, and you morph it into what you want into something totally different. You keep the body, but you change the brain chemistry. You change the personality. They showed you this in One Life to Live. For those people who used to watch One Life to Live, if you remember the character of Victoria Lord, shout out to motherfucking Landview. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Landview was my type of motherfucking place, child. There was always some drama popping off in Landview. Shit, they was doing all types of shit. They had cults and child, but that's another story. But remember the character of Vicky. She had personalities Nikki, Jean. Well, at first we only knew about Nikki. But then come to find out when it was finally revealed that her father, Victor Lord, had been molesting her, there were all of these other characters, including a gatekeeper named Jean Randolph. And Jean Randolph was like a version of her mother. A version of her mother, an archetype of her mother. Shout out to motherfucking Wayward for giving us the information and the wisdom for understanding archetypes. And now I'm seeing things clearly. Now that she put things in perspective. So in actuality, all of those personalities that were in Victoria Lord, those alternate personalities were all archetypes. Okay? Even Vicky was a motherfucking archetype because she was portrayed by a woman named Erica Slezak. But the point that I'm making is that in order to clone someone without removing the body or keeping the same body, you have to do one or two things. One or two things has to happen. They either have to go through a lot of trauma, or they have to go through some form of deep level, high concentration mind control, or what people would call MK Ultra. Okay? So, going back to young Pharaoh, he alleges he was on a spaceship. But I know he wasn't on a spaceship. I know that. I just do. He wasn't on a spaceship. He was a part of, because see, I can't even get into that, but I'll say this much. He was a part of a dark shadow government program where they use certain people in their experiments, and some of the people and some of the entities that experiment on them don't look human because they have a lot of half this, half that looking beings operating on people. They have robots that you couldn't even comprehend. This is all part of a shadow government. So he's one of the people who's probably participating in this, willingly or unwillingly, I don't know. But he wasn't on a spaceship. Aliens don't abduct people. High-level extraterrestrials have no need to abduct people. You're being bamboozled by your government. You're being bamboozled. Young Pharaoh wasn't on a spaceship. High-level extraterrestrials have no need for metal, low-vibrating fucking ships. If they want to travel interdimensionally, they use their essence. They have no need for metal ships. That's outdated. He was probably taken somewhere to some type of secret government facility, shadow government facility, and he was being used. Well, I'm not going to say being used. Yeah, used. Used. But they were upgrading whatever was going on with him. Young Pharaoh is a hybrid. He's not fully human. If we are to believe the story that he told in that little clip of that interview that he did with Tasha K, then he is not fully human. And they are replacing a lot of these black conscious men with hybrids that are not fully human. A lot of these black conscious men who come on YouTube, who we think, and I don't give a fuck who it offends, I don't give a fuck who gets tied up in their motherfucking panties. A lot of these conscious niggas, especially the ones who've been in the penal system, such as Young Pharaoh, a lot of them have been approached by the CIA and the FBI to come on here and be these conscious archetypes that we see. Or these facades that we see. And I learned that listening to, what's his name? Over there on Crumb TV's channel. There was a guy, and I didn't even, you know what? I didn't really care for him back in the day. I'm not talking about Crumb TV because I really don't know him that well. I just became familiar with his content. No issue with him. But back in the day, there was a guy, his name is The God 720. I didn't really care for him back in the day because I wasn't as conscious as I am now. I don't care how he feels about gay people, but that man knows his motherfucking shit. And when Crumb TV was interviewing him not that long ago, I kept saying to myself, I recognize that brother. I said I recognize him, but I could not, because he's older now. You know, he's older now. So I said, I know the voice, I know the spirit, I know the energy, because his energy is very motherfucking no nonsense. It's to the motherfucking point. He speaks his motherfucking mind. He's consistent. As he was back in 2007, he's the same motherfucking way that he is now. However he may feel about homosexuality or gay people, I don't care nothing about that. I'm just going by his consciousness. He was the one who brought up how we really don't even know what really happened with Bobby Hemmett. How a lot of these conscious people, they just, they just fall off. Nothing but respect to Mr. Hemmett, though, because he was the motherfucking shit. He was the motherfucking beast. And everything he motherfucking did. Shout out to motherfucking Mr. Hemmett and his spirit and his frequency and his vibration. Okay? So this ain't got nothing to do with Mr. Hemmett. I'm talking about the fake facade motherfucking niggas who have been in the penal system and then they get out and they're still up under government control because the government is the one who put them in place to be these so-called conscious gurus here on YouTube. This is what the God 720 was saying. And I said, well, goddamn, we've all been bamboozled. I didn't even know that. Well, I kind of did, but he confirmed it. So going back to young Pharaoh, that is what is really going on. He wasn't on no motherfucking spaceship. He ain't talking to no motherfucking extraterrestrials. If you're talking to extraterrestrial, if you're really having communication with high-level extraterrestrials, you're not doing no motherfucking interviews with Tasha K. That's some government, lower-level Illuminati nigga shit. Again, shout out to motherfucking Wayward for calling out the lower-level Illuminati nigga shit. See, I'm learning. I don't got no problem with shouting people out who I'm learning from. For putting things in perspective. He ain't talking to no motherfucking high-level extraterrestrials. Now, I have spoken to high-level extraterrestrials. I have. But I ain't telling nobody what they told me. They ain't none of your business. That's for you to get in contact with those types of high-level entities and shit like that. And I might have, and you know what? I might have spoken to them. I might have mentioned some of the things that, I'll tell you this much. Most of the motherfucking high-level extraterrestrials that I have come in contact with, guess what they looked like? Take a wild guess. Black women! Young Pharaoh says, see, it's always the same consistent motherfucking story. I'm not saying that young Pharaoh is lying. I'm saying he doesn't know that those were not real extraterrestrials. He had an experience. He probably had an experience of some sort. I'm not saying that he's lying. Then again, he could be. Who knows? But I'm not going to call the young man a liar yet. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But he said that there was an extraterrestrial being that was of a masculine nature. When he said that, I said, uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. I said, uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. SpaghettiOs. I said, uh-oh. I started singing in my Whitney Houston voice. You know, she comes through to me sometimes too. But that's another story. I said, oh, why all of these extraterrestrials men? Because the high-level information that I've gotten from extraterrestrials or high-level interdimensional beings, they were black women. The worlds that I have seen and have experienced, or what people would call worlds, they were inhabited by black women. You feel what I'm saying? How come people are always talking about male extraterrestrials? See, that's why you know. See, my experience, and this was no abduction or none of no bullshit like that. This was me traveling interdimensionally because I'm a motherfucking shaman and I can do shit like that. I have shamanistic blood, or what people would call, Pharaoh blood. You do know that's what pharaohs are. Pharaohs are interdimensional travelers. I've told you all that before. They weren't just people sitting on their thrones eating their gold bonbons and counting their gold and diamonds all day. That's lower level Illuminati nigger shit that we've been taught. Real pharaohs were interdimensional travelers. They were creators. They were what would they call them? Innovators. They were creators. They were gods, forces. So he was not on no spaceship. He may have been on a ship, but it wasn't no motherfucking spaceship. So if I am to believe that experience that he had and everything that he went through, then that would mean that he's not fully human. Then there is an aspect of him that has been turned into an artificial intelligence. And that's happening to a lot of black people, unfortunately. That is why you have so many black people who lack compassion now, who lack empathy. They don't want you to have feelings anymore. Oh, just suck it up. Suck it up, buttercup. They treat you any type of way. They're actually becoming like they say white people are. Young Pharaoh has the spirit of white on him. That was not the spirit of a black man sitting in that chair. And I don't give a fuck who gets mad. This isn't me attacking him. What I'm saying is that they have implanted and they have put spirits and energies on him. And they've taken something out. Because young Pharaoh, no matter what I felt about him, I had a level of whatever because of the information he put out, especially when he did that video on blood types and the different various blood types of black people. But I have connections too. And I've always heard little chitter chatter that young Pharaoh was an agent, allegedly. An agent, allegedly. This is what I've heard. The chitter chatter in the background from different people that I know who have deep connections in the conscious community. And I'm not talking about no motherfuckers on YouTube. I'm talking about people who are really in the conscious community, really in it, hands on, not just talking to people on YouTube. When I found out that he needed bodyguards, I said, oh, and I found this out a while back. And I know someone who told me that they actually confronted him at some rally or march or something like that about something. I forgot the details. The point that I'm making is this. That was not the real young Pharaoh doing that interview with Tasha K. Something is not right with that young man anymore. They've done something to him. And I can see it in his eyes. You have to have a spiritual eye in order to be able to see it. That's why young Pharaoh didn't stick his tongue out and all that type of stuff in his videos before. If he did, show me. No, you ain't got to show me. I'll find it. Well, his old channel got terminated. But something is not right about him anymore. And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, and I don't give a fuck who take it like that. It's just what it is. I'm an occultist, and this is real occultism right here, reporting on what is hidden and what people don't want to be said. That takes me to another person. Let's have some motherfucking truth. Let's have some real fucking truth. Before I go into that, let me just finish up about cloning. So, cloning, basically, it boils down to this. They can take you out and replace you with a full body double, or they can do something that is more advanced, turn off your dominant personality and pull another personality. And that is what we are seeing happen to a lot of these people in Hollywood, a lot of these conscious motherfucking fake niggas. We are seeing that happen to a lot of them. They shut down one part of their consciousness and they uproot, mind control them, whatever you want to call it, and they uproot and mind control them into another, and they shape another aspect of them, which could be on a lower vibration and frequency. And how do they do this? Through repetition and trauma and symbols. Repetition, trauma, and symbolism. Okay? So I just wanted to kind of just clean that up a little bit. Okay. Here's another person that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Sarah Dash, and I want to talk about Patti LaBelle, just briefly. Sarah Dash of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, she recently died, right? Now, because black people, we are so emotional about stuff, and because we are so wrapped up into our idols and icons, I get it. And this is no disrespect to Patti LaBelle whatsoever, and I talked about this years ago. This ain't no disrespect to Patti LaBelle and her pedigree and the things that she has accomplished. But we all know that in order to survive in this industry, you have to have a certain amount of savage in you. No, I'm not calling her savage, but I'm just making a point. We all know the sacrifices you have to make in order to stay at the top in this industry. And the thing is that, as I've heard, somebody say before, you don't know who's going to get sacrificed. And this person brought up that even Jennifer Hudson probably did not know. A lot of times we're thinking that these people are actually sacrificing their families and their children and their friends knowingly, but no. When it's time for you to pay the piper, when it's time for you to pay that spirit or that beast, you don't know who they're going to take out. You don't know it's going to be your mother. Such was the case with Kanye West. You don't know that it's going to be your child. Such was the case with Bobby Christina. You don't know. Because even if you die before your child, like with Whitney Houston, the contract was still binding. You said you would give us this, and we're going to get it. No matter what. So, as this person was pointing out, as a matter of fact, it was Wayward, as she was pointing out, a lot of times these people don't know that their relatives and their loved ones are going to be sacrificed. They know something is going to happen, but they don't know who. So the case in point with Patti LaBelle, I have to go back. She didn't know they were going to sacrifice her entire family. Her sisters, her mother, her father. She didn't know that. She didn't know. I just wanted to put that out there. She didn't know. And now I have to look back on that because I remember back in 1989 when I believe that was the last sister that had died. And there was a song that came out around that time, and that song still haunts me till this day. Because around 1989, I was around 11 at that time, and my life was really in turmoil. You know, I was wrongfully removed out of my um, my great grandmother's home. They put me in a, let's just say, a mini prison, which they called a psychiatric ward, because they deemed me dangerous and deemed me this and that. I was afraid because I was put in a place where people were mean and cruel to me, mostly black men and black women. So no, black people in DC, you're not fucking innocent. Black people are not innocent. You do cruel things to you do cruel to you administer your own vial of cruelty towards other black people and black children in particular as well. Like that bitch Miss Lewis who worked at that facility. She was an evil, black, disgusting woman. She was. Or should I just call her an evil, disgusting nigger? She wasn't no black woman. I take that back. She wasn't no black woman, because black women don't do shit that that bitch did. They don't do the type of shit that that evil bitch did. Hopefully the bitch is dead, and I hope the bitch went slow. Yes, I fucking said it, and I ain't taking it back. Actually, I heard the bitch, she married rich. Because they fed off of our energy, but that's another story. I've talked about this before. But in 1989, there was a song that Patti LaBelle recorded called If You Ask Me To. And Celine Dion also recorded that song as well. It's a very sad, depressing song, and it's actually them going through some type of ritual and initiation. For Patti LaBelle, it was one of her sisters she had found out that another one of her sisters were sacrificed. And I think that was the last one that had died, one of her biological sisters. And I believe that was the last one that had died. And the song, If You Ask Me To, if you look at the symbolism of it, and if you look at the the ritual of it, it's almost like Patti LaBelle is going through a rebirth. Black is the color she was wearing. Black is death and rebirth and renewal and the destruction of something old. The song is very depressing. It carries a very, very depressing death, type of energy. When I say death, I mean death in the human concept, not death in the spiritual and enlightened concept of, having your energy renewed. That song was very depressing to me, and it still is, because Patti LaBelle was going through some type of rebirth. So was Celine Dion when she recorded that song as well, or what do they call it? She did her rendition of If You Ask Me To. And both of them did a very good rendition of it. Celine Dion, she sung that motherfucking song good too, But both songs carried a very depressing, sad energy to them. This was in 1989 when Patti LaBelle did her rendition. She was the originator of that. And then I believe in the early 90s or the mid 90s, I can't remember. I believe maybe a few years later, Celine Dion did her rendition of If You Ask Me To. But both were rituals. They were both rituals. Patti LaBelle's If You Ask Me To, the original one, was the soundtrack to the movie, the James Bond movie, License to Kill. So you sit on that for a moment, and you just sit on that. And that came out in 1989. 1989 was a very tumultuous year for a lot of black people here in DC. I wouldn't want to go back to that motherfucking shit for all the tea in motherfucking China. They did a lot of rituals on black people here in DC between 89 and the early 90s. Look what they did to Marion Barry. Look what they did to him. Then I got tied up in that. Not with Marion Barry, but I got tied up, kind of connected with his son. Because his son and I, Christopher, we had some type of soulmate connection going on. And child, I was just looking to have me some fun with his fine ass. That's all I was looking to do. I wasn't trying to get caught up in no mythology, and that's exactly what ended up happening. But the point that I'm making is this. A lot of times they don't even know who these people are going to sacrifice. I just wanted to touch on that because I had to think, that's my email. I just had to think about that a little bit more in depth. Okay. I was thinking about something, and this is not anything definitive or definite. There's no stamp on it. But I just have a question. I got a motherfucking question about something. I got questions about something. I got a goddamn motherfucking question. How do we know? And let me get this question out clearly. How do we know that the R. Kelly that we see today is the R. Kelly who used to sing all that good music back in the early 90s, late 80s? Because I believe R. Kelly came out late 80s, early 90s. I definitely know the early 90s. Let me tell you why I'm saying this. My spirit said, go listen to some old R. Kelly music prior to the 2000s and late 90s. So I went back to that song, Slow Dance, which was 90, 91, 92, somewhere in there, right? And yeah, we all know about Aaliyah. We know about that. So you miss me with that. I'm talking about spirit and energy and pulling people's energy and removing and shutting down people's consciousness and replacing them with either a full body double or just replacing that consciousness or that archetype. Okay? So I went and I looked, and this isn't definite or definitive, just me thinking, because I think outside the box. I'm willing to be wrong. But in the occult, the thing about the occult, when you're an occultist, you embrace being wrong because being wrong sometimes leads you to the right answer. So in the occult, it gives us so much room, wiggle room to do. The occult brings freedom. You don't have to go by the confines of natural thinking. So that's why when people say, oh, you're gay, that's unnatural, you're right. I am unnatural because, motherfucker, I'm beyond your fucking comprehension. I'm supernatural. Anything that's outside of the natural is supernatural if you can't explain it. Now let me continue. I'm water and earth. So sometimes I'm all over the goddamn place. Forgive me. But anyway, let me continue, child. So how do we know? And I'm just asking. Not making a claim, but how do we know that the R. Kelly that's being brought up on all of these heinous charges, how do we know that that is the same R. Kelly who used to sing those beautiful songs like Honey Love, give me that honey love, Dedicated? That song Dedicated, if a lot of people don't know this, but that song was talking about black mothers. And I think specifically his black mother. Slow Dance or Slow Jam, one of them, I forgot the name of, but you know what I'm talking about. All of those songs, My Body's Calling You. So this connects back to young Pharaoh and the other people that they have possibly replaced. Yeah, we knew about him and Aaliyah. We knew about that. We know Aaliyah's family, allegedly pimped her out to R. Kelly. We know about that. But my question is this. The R. Kelly who was just convicted, I believe, today of federal trafficking of young children or young girls today or something. Is that R. Kelly there, the one that we see today, present and accounted for, is that the same R. Kelly? I know I'm all over the place, deal with it. Is that the same R. Kelly from back then who sung all that beautiful, really spiritual music? A lot of it was sexual tantric types of music. And a lot of it was soul music that fed your soul. Then I noticed when he started getting into the late 90s, that is when I started noticing his music started changing. And then into the millennial, whatever. When it got into the millennium, I noticed that his songs became more vulgar. I mean, they were kind of vulgar back then too, but he would mix it up with love and meaning. But then it became just about sex. It became just about sex. He would throw a couple of little songs in there, or whatever the case may be. But one of my favorite songs, I have many favorite songs that are by him, but one of my favorite songs by him is Sex in the Kitchen. Again, the early 2000s was an era of sexual exploitation and a lot of sexual types of energy. Because, honey, when I was in my early 20s back then, honey, I was horny as a motherfucker all the time. Child, I was always trying to get me some dick. I'm not going to lie to you. I was always trying to get me some motherfucking dick. I was hot to trot because of the energy that we were up under at that time. We were up under a very promiscuous type of energy and frequency and vibration. I remember that. The ritual that we were up under, we were ritualized at that time. The early 2000s were all about sex, sex, sex. And I'm just getting out of that fucking ritual because I have a boyfriend now that lives with me. And we have a beautiful relationship and nothing can come in between that. Yeah, we argue, we have our issues, but it is what it is. Sometimes it be like that. But one thing that I do like about arguments is that when you do have an argument, at least for me and my boyfriend, my man, whatever you want to call it, at least for he and I, when we do argue, something beautiful ends up taking place. We end up getting along better because I have to learn to compromise. Okay, I've had to learn to compromise, but I just wanted to say that. But I noticed that R. Kelly's music started to drastically change. His energy started to drastically change. If you go back and if you really look, I know people age and whatever the case may be, and I know people get plastic surgery and all that bullshit, but if you really go back and look, the R. Kelly from the early 90s looks nothing like this entity that we see now, who is being accused of all of these, and being found guilty of all of these heinous crimes against young girls. And now I'm hearing allegedly a boy too. Is that even the real fucking R. Kelly, or is that someone else? I'm not going to say a clone, because so many people have become comfortable. Oh, this person's a clone, that person's a clone, when most people don't even know what a fucking clone is. I'm noticing intricate differences in this R. Kelly versus the one from back in the early 1990s. They are two totally different people. And I know what people are going to say, well, what about Aaliyah? Well, let me say it to you again. We all know about Aaliyah. Maybe that is when the change happened. I don't know. And let me say this as a motherfucking disclaimer. I ain't making no motherfucking excuses for no types of, perverse, violating women and young girls. I'm talking about spirit. And I'm talking about this particular individual that we see now, who is allegedly portraying R. Kelly. That does not look like the same man from back in the early 1990s. Yeah, everybody ages, but there are consistencies with people that age cannot take away. Okay? There is an idiosyncratic way in which people conduct themselves. There are idiosyncrasies that people have, which idiosyncrasies are nothing more than certain personality traits, certain ways of walking. For example, Bette Davis, the actress, she had an idiosyncrasy in which in mannerisms, and how she spoke, how she held her cigarette, that no one else could do. No one else could do those things like she could. And that's the same thing that I'm saying with R. Kelly. There's something different about his eyes. Same thing with Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, I'm going there, y'all. Same thing with Oprah Winfrey. There is something totally different. Oprah Winfrey gets a lot of bad flack. I've said things that I didn't agree with that she's done. Oprah gets a bad flack, gets a lot of bad rap. But you know what? Back in, I want to say 3 years, 2 or 3 years into the run of the Oprah Winfrey Show, back in the 1980s, when Oprah would when she would act, like when she played in The Color Purple, I'm gonna tell you something. The person who should have really won an Academy Award was Oprah Winfrey, because she portrayed what a black woman is really supposed to be. Confident. That was her really being. She was really in her true nature when she had a little bit more weight on her. And she was portraying Sophia, a black woman who was outspoken, wasn't disrespectful, but she wasn't going to take no motherfucking shit off of her husband Harpo. And she wasn't supposed to take that man beating on her and controlling her. Oprah really portrayed the personification of a strong, powerful black woman who protected her children. Celie was weak, and I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Celie was weak. The two best characters in The Color Purple were Suge Avery and Sophia. Suge Avery was the divine whore. She was the saint and the sinner. Oprah was the great mother. She wasn't taking no motherfucking shit off of Harpo or any other person or any other man. You saw how she punched the mayor in his damn face when he smacked her because that spirit was in her then. Oprah is not exempt from being young Pharaoh. I remember, and I was talking to somebody about this. I remember the women of Brewster Place. I remember a lot of the movies that Oprah played in during the 1980s and even into the early 90s. I remember when she played in Women of Brewster's Place, where she played Maddie. She played a strong black woman who survived no matter what. And the positive images that she put out, the positive images that she portrayed for the black community, like the Women of Brewster Place. They had a spinoff of the Women of Brewster's Place. I didn't know that until recently. And it was about Oprah and her friend that was played by Jack K. Harry. I forgot her name, the character's name, but you know what I'm talking about. But Jack K. Harry did not play in the spinoff. There was another lady that played Jack K. Harry's role. But you know, Miss Sophie was in that motherfucker, played by Olivia Cole. Shout out to the spirit of Olivia Cole. Miss Cole, you one of the greats, and don't think you've forgotten. But it showed how two sisters came together, two friends, and they opened the spinoff of Women's of Brewster's Place. You all should check it out. When I looked at it, the energy of it was amazing. It was almost as if the ancestors were talking to me saying, look, this is what it should be about. Oprah and her friend opened up a restaurant together. And it really showed how the black community, even if they didn't like each other like that, they would still come and support. Miss Sophie didn't like Oprah and her friend. Remember, in the movie, she didn't like Oprah and her friend. But she still came and supported with her shady self. She still came and supported them. Remember, Miss Sophie was the old lady that didn't like the two lesbians that moved into the building. Remember, she said, I saw you. Child, I got to get that motherfucking gift, child. I love that gift. They got that gift on here. You know, she was crazy as a motherfucker. But Miss Olivia Cole, who died in 2018, she played that motherfucking role. But the point that I'm making is that the images and the energy that was put out, it was positive. Even when she played in that movie Native Son, where her son murdered this white woman that he was working for, she played his distraught mother. I'm talking about the compassion and the passion that we used to see in the black community on the screen. Let me call you back. I'm making a YouTube video. Hello? Anyway. So, Oprah used to be part of that. She used to be part of that. Let me call you back. I'm making a YouTube video. I'll call you back. Okay. I'll call you. Okay. So, Oprah was part of that. She was part of that genre. Even when she played in that movie, There Are No Children Here, she was still, even though the movie she played an inner city mother who was trying to raise her children, and she was balancing out, being, the great queen bee of the media, Oprah Winfrey. She was balancing that out, and you could still see that there was some remnants of spirit left in her. But you can look inside of her eyes and see that is not the same Oprah Winfrey from back in the 90s and the 80s. Oprah had beautiful, brown, expressive eyes. Okay? She had beautiful, brown, expressive eyes. Now her eyes look so... It doesn't even look like the same person. And that's the same thing that I'm saying with R. Kelly. There are idiosyncratic physical traits and mannerisms that cannot be feigned or faked. So my question is, who is that man that's being brought up on all of these charges? And is that the real R. Kelly that we knew from back in the early 90s and late 80s who made all that beautiful music? Is that even the same person? Is that even the same person? I'm just asking. Again, this isn't about alleviating or dismissing or taking up for, his predatory ways. I'm asking, is that even the same person that we knew from back in the day? Anyway, this is the Occult View, aka Sia Grant, BKA that dark occultist, just inquiring and just having a little chat. Thank you.